Imagine sitting in an airport terminal. You have your ticket, your bags are packed, and you're just waiting for boarding to be called. An hour passes, then 10 hours, then 5 years. The flight never leaves. Millions of people are currently living what psychologists call a provisional life. It is the persistent feeling that your real life is waiting for you somewhere in the future, while today is just a disposable holding area you have to get through. Treating the present moment like a low-resolution simulation removes us from the very environment where purpose is cultivated. This chart shows how our pursuit of comfort is backfiring. Between 2009 and 2019, as society achieved peak physical comfort and digital convenience, the rates of adolescent depressive episodes and adult unhappiness managed to nearly double. Happiness researcher Arthur Brooks spent years studying this exact divergence. His research suggests we have confused transient pleasure with deep fulfillment. Finding significance requires us to stop optimizing for comfort and start leaning into the exact friction we spend our days trying to avoid. We are sold the idea that efficiency brings happiness. Silicon Valley built an entire economy on eliminating friction from human connection, allowing us to swipe through hundreds of digital faces in a single hour. But efficient doesn't mean meaningful. These low-friction transactional interactions are what Brooks calls thin experiences. What our minds actually require to stay healthy are thick experiences, connections that are multisensory, embodied, and vulnerable. Modern productivity culture over-indexes on the analytical left hemisphere of the brain, the part designed to deconstruct the world into discrete, usable parts. Focusing exclusively on this analytical mode starves the right hemisphere, which processes context, relational resonance, and holistic wonder. Emotional depth and resilience require the friction of thick, in-person human interactions to survive. We apply this same demand for ease to our careers. The cultural advice to do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life causes massive burnout, because it tricks people into believing a calling should feel effortless. There is an old Zen parable about a young monk seeking enlightenment. His master tells him that before he is enlightened, he must chop wood and carry water. Decades later, when the monk finally achieves his goal, he asks what comes next. The master replies, "Chop wood, carry water." This parable suggests that enlightenment shifts the internal state of the person performing the task, even while the external labor remains identical. The philosopher Thich Nhat Hanh argued that if you wash the dishes only to hurry to the cup of tea waiting for you afterward, you are living in the future. You render yourself incapable of inhabiting reality. A fulfilling career is built by bringing supreme, singular attention to the exact mundane task sitting right in front of you. The final modern assumption is that a good life must be a painless life. This drives a constant, exhausting pursuit of pleasure. This chart visualizes a psychological trap called hedonic adaptation. As you chase pleasure, your brain's dopamine baseline resets. You find yourself running faster on a treadmill, requiring more and more stimulation to get less and less of a payoff. In physical therapy, there is a concept called the fear avoidance model. If you immobilize a sore shoulder to avoid the pain, the joint eventually freezes entirely. The exact same logic applies to our emotional lives. When we constantly numb ourselves or run away from natural grief and anxiety, we create emotional atrophy. Attempting to eliminate normal sorrow actually generates chronic, unmanageable psychological pain. When highly fulfilled people reflect on their lives, they never cite luxury or comfort as their defining moments. They point to failure, illness, and loss. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche argued that this kind of suffering is essential for self-overcoming. Unavoidable suffering provides the primary raw material required to discover what actually matters. Reversing this provisional life requires daily, deliberate action. The first step is the digital swap, trading one automated, thin digital interaction for a manual, thick human ritual every single day. The second tool is a suffering journal. Instead of practicing gratitude, you write down your daily worries, disappointments, and failures. By returning to these entries months later, you train metacognition. the ability to objectively observe your own emotional reactions and extract the lessons they hide. Meaning serves as a daily practice, a psychological muscle that gains strength through consistent, deliberate use. In 1952, the composer John Cage staged a performance called 433, where musicians sat on stage in total silence for over 4 minutes. The initial confusion of the audience eventually gave way to a realization. The ambient noises of the room, the coughing, the rain, the breathing, were an incredibly rich, spontaneous composition. The psychologist Carl Jung observed that discovering significance requires the courage to sit with heavy, unanswerable questions, rather than demanding immediate synthetic entertainment for distraction. The waiting room is your actual life. Purpose begins the exact moment you decide to stop running, stand still, and meet reality directly.